Thank you. Welcome to this channel. My name is Francis Leclerc, and if you are here with me, just be ready to unlock the secrets of profit maximization in production. Join me on an exciting journey where we demystify the art and science of optimizing the profitability of your business. Whether you are an entrepreneur, a student, or you are simply curious about maximizing profit, this expertly crafted video will break down complex concepts into simple and actionable steps. I will explore strategies, case studies, and real-world examples to help you make informed decisions that boost your bottom line. Don't miss out on the chance to supercharge your understanding of economics and take your profit to new heights. Let's maximize your success together. And I'm going to take you through a brief introduction, then profit maximization and a factor product relationship. What is production? Well, it's all about turning a bunch of inputs into outputs, which we often call products. Think of it as the process of making things, whether it's manufacturing goods or providing services. Now, meet the star of the show, that is the farm. A farm is like an economic entity that takes resources like land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship and transforms them into goods and services. For instance, farms produce crops, milk processors turn milk into various products, and universities offer or provide educational services. Now, let's talk about production economics. It's basically the application of the theory of the farm in real world production scenarios. We are going to explore how farms make smart decisions to maximize their profits. And here are the three economic questions that they ask. One is how much to produce, two is how to produce, and three is what to produce. To start with, how much to produce. This means figuring out the level of production that will bring in the most profit. How to produce. This is about finding the most cost-effective way to make things, often by using the least cost combination of inputs. What to produce. Farms need to decide which mix of products will bring in the most profit. It's like creating a winning product lineup. But remember, farms also make lots of other decisions, or they answer other questions like where to advertise, how much to spend on research, and where to set up the business. Here is the thing. Economists assume that farms make all these decisions with one big goal in mind, and that is to maximize their profit. It's like a simplified model to help us understand how farms make production choices. So, stay tuned as we unravel the secrets of production economics and learn how farms make the magic happen. We need also to understand what these terms like profit maximization. This is like hitting the jackpot in business. It means making as much money as you possibly can. It is the dream of every entrepreneur. Optimization, on the other hand, just think of this as a fine-tuning Think of this as fine-tuning your business strategy. you are trying to get the best outcome, whether that means maximizing something like profit or minimizing it like cost. Now, here is a crucial insight. When a firm aims for its optimal level of production, it's not always about making the most goods or the most services, or it's not about making the most stuff. It is about finding the sweet spot that gives you the maximum profit. Now, profit, this is the magic number. This is the magic number. It's what you have left after you have paid all your bills. To calculate it, you simply subtract your costs from your revenue. Total revenue is the grand total of money that you make from selling your goods or services. You find it by multiplying the quantity you produce, you can denote it as Q, by the price you charge, denoted by P. So it is TR equals to Q by P. Cost or total cost is what you spend on everything that goes into making your product. It's like a shopping list of all the inputs you use, such as materials, labor, and many more. To find the total cost, you add up the cost of each input times the quantity you use. Therefore, we are saying TC is equals to the cost of the cost by, or the cost of input 1 plus cost of input 2 up the cost of input n, where x1, x2, xn are the amount of inputs you use, and C1, C2, up to Cn are the prices of each input. Now, to get your profit, you simply take your total revenue and subtract your total cost. So we are saying profit is given by TR minus TC. In simpler terms, it's like saying profit is equals to QP minus C1 by X1 plus C2 plus X2 up to Cn by Xn. These concepts are the cornerstone of making wise business decisions. It's not just about making a lot. It's about making a lot while keeping your costs in check. So, whether you are a student or an entrepreneur, remember these principles as you navigate the world of economics and business. Or situations in production. The period, or the short, to start with, the short-term period is the period in production when some factors cannot be varied or are fixed. Imagine you are running a milk production business. In the short run, some of the factors involved cannot be easily changed or are fixed. These fixed factors may include things like physical infrastructure, like a farmer, store, a cow, machinery, tools, among others. Or can be family labor, among others. However, you can vary certain factors in this period, such as hired labor, concentrates, among others. In this period, the firm can adjust its output level by changing the variable factors. But here is the catch. Even if you decide not to produce any milk, or you decide to produce at zero level of output, you still have to bear the costs associated with those fixed factors. This means that in the short run, your farm might end up making negative profits if you produce nothing because you are stuck with a fixed cost. In economic terms, we calculate profit as the difference between total revenue TR and total cost TC, where TC is the sum of both fixed cost and variable cost. So, in the short run, your profit will be TR minus TC, where TC is the summation of FC and VC, which is simplified to profit is equals to negative FC in a case where there's no production going on. In accounting, we usually have two categories of profit. That is net profit and gross profit. Net profit considers all costs, both fixed and variable. It is calculated as TR minus less TC. Gross profit only considers variable costs. It is calculated as TR minus VC. In the short run, the primary objective of a farm is to maximize a profit. Now, on the other hand, or when we talk about long run period or long run situation in production, in this phase, you have the flexibility to change all factors of production. You can adjust the quantities of all inputs because all factors are variable. In simple terms, you can decide to use more land, hire more labor, buy new machinery, or even exit the milk production, for example, altogether. For instance, consider a motorcycle manufacturing company, call it ABC. They plan to expand production in 2 years. In this long run scenario, they can change all aspects of their production process. They can acquire new land, construct buildings, purchase machinery, hire more labor, and make various adjustments to meet their production goals. In the long run, the primary goal of a farm is to maximize net profit, considering the flexibility to adjust all input factors as needed. So, in summary, the short run limits your ability to change certain factors, leading to fixed costs that can affect your profit. On the other hand, the long run allows you to adjust all factors and plan for the future with the goal of maximizing the net profit. Production and that was introduction. Now, production function or understanding the relationship will lead us to understand the relationship between factor product relationship or factor output relationship. Think of a production function as the blueprint that explains how a farm transforms inputs into outputs. In other words, it's the bridge between the resources a company uses and the amount of goods or services it produces. This concept is fundamental in economics and help us understand how businesses operate. The mathematical representation of production function is as indicated, where y is a function of x1, x2 up to xn, where y represents the quantity of output, x1, x2 up to xn represent the quantities of various inputs like labor, capital, capital, entrepreneurship, among others. The distinction between the short run and the long run is crucial in understanding production functions. In the short run, some of the inputs are fixed and cannot be easily. Some of the inputs are fixed and cannot be easily changed. So our production function looks like below, where y is a function of x1, given that x2, x3 up to xn are fixed inputs. Essentially, we are saying that the short run, we can only change the variable inputs like labor and materials, while some inputs like machinery or facilities remain fixed. In contrast, the long run, all inputs can be adjusted. Our production function is simpler, where y is a function of x1, x2, xn, x3 up to xn. In the long run, we can vary all inputs as needed. And now, let's tie this into the concept of gross profit. Gross profit is the difference between the total revenue generated from the output and the total cost incurred to produce the output. So, the formula for gross profit is equals to total revenue less total cost. In the context of our production function, it's important to note that gross profit calculations depend on the specific input and their costs. In the short run, where only some input can be adjusted, we express the relationship as y is a function of x1, given that x2, x3 up to xn are fixed. In this case, gross profit simplifies to GM is equals to PY minus CX. In summary, a production function helps us understand how a firm's output depends on the input it uses. It can be expressed mathematically and varies depending on whether we are in the short run or long run. Understanding this function is essential for entrepreneurs and even students studying economics, because it provides valuable insights into optimizing production and managing costs to maximize profit. Now let's products, average products, marginal products, value of the average product, and value of marginal product. Imagine you are running a business. Total product is simply the total amount of output that you get from a specified amount of variable input. Think of it as how much of goods and services you can produce when you change one aspect of your production process, like labor or raw materials. Average product. Now let's talk about the average product. This is or AP tell us how much output you are getting per unit of what variable input. It's calculated by taking the total product and dividing it by the quantity of the variable input. So AP is equals to TP out of X1. It helps you figure out how efficient your production process is on average. Marginal product takes things a step further. A step further. It tells you how much more output you get from adding one more unit of the variable input. You can calculate it using the change in total product divided by the change in variable input, or the more mathematical terms, in the more mathematical terms, dy out of dx. It is essentially the first derivative of the production function if you are not into math. Marginal product helps you pinpoint the impact of each additional unit of input on your overall output. It is crucial for understanding when to hire more workers or increase resource allocation in your business. Now, let's bring money into the equation. Value of average product is the monetary value of the average product. It's the cash you are making from each unit of input. To calculate it, you multiply the average product by the product price. So, VAP, that's value of marginal product, is equals to PY by AP, where PY is the value of the product. You can also express it as VAP is equals to P by Y out of X, where TR is replaces PY, P by Y, to give you the total revenue. VAP helps you understand the financial returns you are getting from each unit of input in your production process. Lastly, there is value of marginal product. It is the monetary value of the additional output you get from adding one more unit of the variable input. To find it, you simply multiply the marginal product by the product price. That's PY. So, VMP is equals to PY by MP, which can also be expressed as VMP is equals to PY by change in Y out of change in X. VMP is essential because it tells you how much extra revenue you can generate by investing in more of a particular input. It helps you make informed decisions about resource allocation and production efficiency. In a nutshell, TP, AP, MP, VAP, and VMP are all tools that economists and business owners use to understand and optimize their production processes, making sure they are getting the most value from their resource and input while maximizing profit. Now, let me take you to a business, and you are using both fixed and variable factors to produce goods or services. The law of diminishing return, a crucial principle in economics, tells us what happens when we add more of the variable factor while keeping everything else constant, like the fixed factors. Stages of the law of diminishing return, as indicated in the figure, you can see we have the stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, where we have the total product. This curve is for the total product. We have the curve for marginal product, and we have the curve for average product. In stage 1, The stage one is the increasing returns to variable factors. In this stage, when you increase the quantity of the variable factor, let's say labor or raw materials, your total product increases at an increasing rate. Not only that, but your marginal product in this stage or additional output from one more unit of input and average product are also rising. As you can see, in this stage, both the curves, all the curves, the total product, the marginal product, and the average product, all of them are increasing, or they are on the increasing rate. This is a good sign. It means you are becoming more efficient in combining your resources. However, you should not produce in this region because you can still increase your profit by adding more variable inputs. In stage 2, this stage represents a decreasing return to the variable factors. In other words, as you continue to increase the variable factor, your total product still goes up, but it is increasing at a decreasing rate. Both your marginal product and average product are positive, but they are falling at this point. The average product is higher than the marginal product. However, it is rational to produce in this region because profits can be maximized depending on the cost of the input. You can maximize profit if the variable input is given free of charge. You can maximize profit here, or the profit is maximized in this stage. In stage 3, stage 3 is negative return to the variable factors. In this stage, things take a downturn. The marginal product becomes negative, and as a result, your total output starts to reduce. This stage represents extreme inefficiency. It is like your factor of production are getting in each other's way, leading to conflict. Even if you are to get labor for free, you still will not operate in this stage because you could achieve higher total output by using less labor. In this stage, you might consider reducing the use of variable inputs, reallocating them to another production process, or increasing the fixed input or expanding the scale of production. So the figure is well illustrating, and we have a number of assumptions that we make. One is that we assume that the state of technology is or remain the same. We also assume that successive units of the variable factors are assumed to be equally efficient. We also assume that production takes place in the short run where at least one factor of production is fixed. There is also a variable factor of production under consideration. The optimal level of input use. The optimal level of input use is essentially the level of input that will help you maximize your profit. Or to put it more simpler, it is the amount of resources you should use to get the most out of your business. Now, we may have two scenarios here, or three scenarios. One is single input, single output case. We have single input, multiple output case. We may have multiple input, multiple output case. Let's start with simple scenario where you have just one input, let's call it x1, and one output y. The goal here is to maximize profit, and profit is calculated by total revenue minus total cost. And mathematically, we represent it as Py minus Px, where P is the price of the output, Y is quantity of output, C is the cost of input, and X is the quantity of input. Now, when we want to find the optimal level of input use, we look at how changes in input quantity affect profit. We use calculus and find the point where the change in profit with respect to the change in input becomes zero. In simple terms, this means that we are looking for the input level where your profit is not increasing or decreasing. It's maximum. This leads us to the equation of Py or of price times change in y out of change in x should equals to the cost of the input, where Py is the cost of input. Where so is the cost of input, where and C1 is, so it's the point of maximum profit. The value of marginal product of the input is equal to its cost, and which makes sense, right? You are getting as much value from the input as you are paying for it. Now, in a single input, multiple output case, now let's say you have one input but multiple outputs. Imagine you are a farmer and you can use fertilizer to grow maize, coffee, tea, and vegetables. The key here is to allocate your input in a way that the VMP of the input is equal across all the different crops, but not less than the unit factor cost. So, in this case, you will not want to ensure that you wouldn't want to ensure that VMP1 equals to VMP2 equals to VMP3 equals to VMP4, and that they are all greater than or equal to CF, the unit factor cost. The principle is known as Euclidean principle in factor product relationship. In other words, you want to get the most value out of your fertilizer by spreading it across your crops in a way that maximizes your overall profit. In multiple input, multiple output case, for example, lastly,